Hey everybody, welcome back to Race of History. Today we're going to do the Sabaton history for the Blood of Bannockburn. We did the song 2 days ago, I believe. I'll put the link to it somewhere up at the top if you haven't seen it yet. This is one that I'm pretty interested in because I don't know a ton about the war for Scottish independence. Well, wars for Scottish independence. Um, Obviously, I know like general information about who they're fighting and why and everything like that, leaders of the time, but specific information I don't know a ton about. And there have been some movies made that are so drastically like not realistic as far as the actual history is concerned. The one I'm thinking about off the top of my head is Braveheart. Obviously, it is way off the rails historically, um, but that's really the context that most people have for the fight for Scottish independence. So let's go ahead and get into it. Sabaton history, Blood of Bannockburn.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Joachim from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton History.
The song Blood of Bannockburn is about the battle of the same name and Robert the Bruce, the man who led the Scots to victory there. The Scots fought for their independence from the English for over 30 years before achieving final victory, and a major step on that road to victory was the Battle of Bannockburn.
And our song, Blood of Bannockburn, is our only song in a major key.
Wow. Joachim is going to tell you a bit about the song itself, but first, I'm going to tell you the history. Now, the Scottish defeat in the Battle of Falkirk in 1289 at the hands of the English had seemingly destroyed the Scottish independence movement once.
Okay, so that picture has two armored guys, or one of the guys that has chainmail on. I didn't notice the other one, but I assume it's chainmail. This is one of those things. The way that this is portrayed in Braveheart is the Scots are essentially completely unarmored, right? They have no armor. No, they are almost like you would imagine like the Gauls to fight, right? I have heard historians just murder this conception of what the Scots looked like, saying they would have looked like any other army of the time. They weren't, like, they didn't just literally walk outside, pick up a knife, and then walk into battle. Like, that wasn't a realistic portrayal of what they would have been wearing or what they would have looked like.
And for all, William Wallace, the guy from Braveheart, had abandoned his title as the Guardian of Scotland, embittered by the Scottish nobles who had betrayed him during the battle. On the run, he was again betrayed and handed over to the English, who emasculated, strangled, and quartered him in 1305. The Scottish earls surrendered and swore their fealty to Edward I of England, the one they called Longshanks. But there was still a strong anti-English feeling throughout the country, with nobles still plotting an insurgency. Such a noble was Robert Bruce, also known as the Bruce. He was the former Earl of Carrick and the 7th Lord of Annandale, and had a strong claim to the Scottish throne, but also many enemies among his fellow Scots. In 1306, Bruce made his move and secured the throne, and once crowned King of Scotland, rallied the Scottish earls for war with England. With high hopes, he led his forces into the field and got his army wrecked during the Battle of Methven. In fact,
wow, that was way better than I thought it was going to be. That was pretty good.
Bruce barely escaped with a small band of loyal followers, his army gone, his lands confiscated and distributed amongst his Scottish enemies. Even his wife, sisters, and daughters were captured and imprisoned, his brother tortured and executed. But from his darkest hour emerged one of the greatest comebacks in history.
The time has come to fight. Scotland must unite. We'll make a stand on sterling ground to put a challenge to the crown.
Robert Bruce returned from his hiding place in the Western Isles, where he recruited new warriors to his cause and began a relentless guerrilla war against his enemies, raiding English camps or ambushing their supply lines. They hid among the locals, who also hated the English oppressors. Robert.
Well, we've talked about this a lot, right? With the U.S. wars in the Middle East, with the Napoleonic Wars in Spain. This is how you fight a conventional army if you can't match forces. Guerrilla warfare is just really, really hard to contend with for strong conventional forces. So, smart move.
Bruce became a tactician, finding the weak points of his enemies and using the terrain to his advantage. He took back his castles and gathered ever more supporters to his cause. One by one, he destroyed his internal enemies on the battlefields, took their strongholds, making him an actual king of Scotland once again. Of course, this war did not escape the attention of the English throne. Now, Longshanks had died by this time and his son Edward II was king. But until 1314, he was distracted by his own internal enemies and his affairs in France. But the new king in the north was a serious threat to England's frontier. So Edward assembled an army of over 18,000 men, among them heavy cavalry and Welsh longbowmen, and led them to crush the Scottish rebellion once again. A side note here, the longbow was a recent and major innovation that revolutionized medieval warfare. Welsh bowmen had used them against Longshanks, actually, and he incorporated them into his army. The longbow was a devastating weapon, with long range, able to pierce even plate armor from shorter ranges, and with a much quicker rate of fire than the crossbow. They would later famously be used to destroy the French in battle after battle during the 100 Years' War.
Yeah, so the longbow obviously has a big part in history after this point. But that's smart, right? That's something that the Persians were known to do, is kind of pick up tricks and trades and weaponry and things like that along the way whenever they would come across an enemy, right? So you go and you fight the Greeks, you lose, you can't really contend with that type of warfare. So what do? You hire Greek mercenaries and they come form the backbone of your army as heavy infantry. Like, this is a smart move of adapting to what the enemy does well, or weapons that they have that work well.
Contrary to popular opinion, though, longbowmen did not launch arrows high in the sky to drop onto their enemies. Okay, well, this did happen. They fought far more often at close range in order to be their most accurate and to preserve their store of expensive and limited ammunition. Anyhow, at this time, Bruce had Stirling Castle, the old residence of Scottish kings, under siege. It not only had strong symbolic significance, the position of the castle between the streams Bannockburn and the River Forth was also of strategic importance. Philip de Mowbray, the castle governor, was loyal to the English crown. Legend goes that he said he would surrender the castle to Bruce if the English did not relieve him by the end of June. Well, on June 23rd, the English army, led personally by Edward II, arrived outside of the village of Bannockburn on the other side of the stream. Robert Bruce was now determined to fight a decisive battle. His army was probably around 8,000 to 10,000 men strong and consisted mostly of infantry, some crossbowmen, and a few cavalrymen. He was outnumbered at least 2 to 1. Historians disagree on how much of the English army had arrived by the battle, so Bruce would have to rely on his tactical experience he had gained during his guerrilla campaign. The story of the Battle of Bannockburn goes that the vanguard of the English army crossed the stream and encountered Robert Bruce and his bodyguard. The Scots had made defensive earthworks that formed a bottleneck on the road to and through the woods, so the English could only launch a narrow frontal attack here. These earthworks also neutralized the English advantage in heavy cavalry. The English nobleman Henry de Bohun, whose father was joint commander of the vanguard, spotted the Bruce and charged him with a lance. The Bruce turned at the last moment and won the duel with his superior battle-axe-in-the-face tactic.
So this is smart, right? This is what I say the Greeks, but it's not really the Greeks in the way we think about it today. There is no real Greek identity, but for all intents and purposes, this is what the Greeks do at the Battle of Thermopylae, right? The Persians are known for their cavalry and their numbers. And so what do you do if you have less troops and you want to figure out a way to contend with the cavalry? Well, cavalry does really well in big open spaces. You want to funnel them down, get them into small spaces, make it to where the cavalry either have to get off their horses to fight, or it's incredibly difficult to maneuver in the enclosed spaces. It's a good move here, right? I feel like it is.
Too right. The Scots then routed the vanguard infantry. Now, Bannockburn is not a large river by any means, but it is lined with swamps, marshland, and dense woods, through which the armored English had to struggle. The Scots on the other side were hidden in the woods. When the English attempted to cross the stream, the Scottish infantry would advance as well, in tightly packed formations known as shieldtrons or schildtrons. They carried spears and pikes, and as long as they maintained formation, the English heavy cavalry, also limited by space from getting up speed, could not hope to charge them and live through it, nor could they outflank them. As night fell, the English camped in a deep marsh and remained awake for the most part, fearing an ambush that never came. The following day, June the 24th, Edward II drove the rest of his army across the stream. Bruce moved his whole force out of the woods in 3 formations. The English now realized that the field was too small for them to fully deploy, so the archers, who would normally have been on the flanks, were now placed in the front rank. They opened fire as the Scottish advanced. Bruce ordered his cavalry to charge them, which prompted Edward to order a countercharge with his own cavalry, which blocked any possible storm of arrows. The Scottish formations did not break, and the English charge went horribly wrong. The Scots infantry advanced, pushing their enemy back into the steep-banked ditch of the Bannockburn, where the English soldiers were trapped by the weight of their armor and slaughtered.
Rally all the clans, Englishmen and lands. Blood of Bannockburn, point of no return. Join the Scottish Revolution, freedom must be won by blood. Now we call for revolution, lay them fights and cry out loud.
Edward's bodyguards barely got their lord away from the fray, and many famous English knights fell prey to Scottish pikes or were captured for ransom. Seeing their king flee the battle, the rest of the English army turned their backs and ran as well. Stirling Castle surrendered, and much of the fleeing army was killed making its way back to the English border, either by Bruce's pursuing army or by the local inhabitants. It is estimated that the English lost over 10,000 men, perhaps many more, and the financial strain of the ransom of over 150 nobles weakened Edward's rule. The battle destroyed England's ability to fight the Scottish for years, leaving northern England vulnerable. Robert was really the Bruce at this point, as his name became legend and his authority after the battle was unchallenged. This was the main turning point on the road to Scottish independence, which was signed by treaty with King Edward III, Edward II's son and successor, after Robert the Bruce invaded northern England in 1328.
Well,
Yeah, so what a terrible position for the English here. You are basically, you have your like boot on the throat of the Scots. There is this king that is overthrown and gone, like completely gone out of the picture, all of that. Everything is back to normal, settles down, and then you start to get like whispers that this old deposed king has returned and has some troops and is rallying some people to his banner. So you think, okay, well, if it gets out of hand, we'll go down there and thump them again. Well, then he starts taking over stronghold after stronghold, and you think, okay, we're going to put together an army, we're going to go down there. Well, by the time you put together the army and actually move down there, Stirling Castle is besieged, basically surrounded, and this has turned into kind of a do or die situation. So you go into the battle, you lose, and then on the back side of that, not only do you lose Scotland, Stirling Castle, all of the other strongholds, you lose the army you take, you lose a ton of money in the ransoms for the knights that you have, and then your northern border is open to the army that just kicked your teeth in. Like, what a wild table turn that is.
Not only does this song feature bagpipe, but we also got some Hammond organ in this one.
And it was, in fact, you that played the organ on this.
Yes, it was. Actually, I came into the band as an organ player, and or I started in music as an organ
Wow.
player.
Now, I bet a lot of people don't actually know that that's what you did when you first joined Sabaton.
Yeah, I was writing songs, and they told me, can't you sing until we find a singer? And the lazy bastards, well, here I am.
So were you like singing on demos, and we'd send these around, and somebody could maybe take over? And
Yeah,
stuff?
actually, that's what happened. The lazy bastards, as I call them, and I will refer to them as that for this one, they actually told me, one day, we're going to record a demo. And I went, well, we don't have a singer. And they said, well, we'll use the demo to find a singer. And that actually made sense.
And so you were just doing like a placeholder vocals.
Yeah, okay, it sounded like shit.
Now, do we get to hear it one day?
I hope not. I certainly hope not.
Okay, so that means I'm probably not cutting to it right now.
Oh, no, please don't.
Okay, not cutting to it right now. But that's really interesting. And I play keyboards as well and stuff. And
Yes.
we both played with different Swedish bands and different touring around Sweden. It's been a lot of fun. We were touring it. Basically, we started touring Sweden at the same time.
Yeah, we
I mean,
did.
you guys started playing in the 99 or what?
Yeah.
And the first Swedish bands I started really touring around Sweden with was also in 99 and 2000.
Oh, yeah.
Now, back to the song, though, because this is about Blood of Bannockburn. One thing about this song is you can't help but feel it's a sort of an inspirational song, when you...
Yeah, I mean, it is in a major key, as
Yeah.
I said, and it's such a good vibe live. Seriously. I mean, it was kind of popular on the album,
Yeah.
but live, that song really comes to life in a way. People are happy, and especially playing this one in Scotland.
Yeah, I was
That
gonna
is
say.
a blast. We've done that in Scottish war paint and
Yeah, I bet they go absolutely nuts.
everything, and kilts.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, do we have a photo?
Maybe we do, actually.
Boom! All right, there we go.
Fail to succeed and play the tunes of victory. Let them higher and higher tonight. Here Bannockburn, freedom we have earned. Join the Scottish Revolution. Freedom must be won by blood. Now we call for revolution.
All right, Blood of Bannockburn, this uplifting song in a major key, is on the album The Last Stand.
And that's all for today.
But we'll see you next time on Sabaton History.
Wow. Yeah, man, I bet that song is awesome to hear live. It's a really good song. I've talked about this. The Last Stand is an album that I really, really like. I feel like, I don't know, they hit some kind of groove, something with that album. I feel like it's just a great album. But all right, that was a good one. The Blood of Bannockburn, the War of Scottish Independence, Sabaton History. They put out a Sabaton History for Versailles off of the latest album. I don't think I've done Versailles yet, so what I think I'm going to do next is I'm going to do a two-part with the Versailles song and the Sabaton History in one video, and then also I'm working on getting the next Decemberist video out. So those will be out soon. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Help me keep building the channel over here. I'll put the Discord link in the description box down below, and I'll see you all next time.